Like a guiding lighthouse in a storm, we've illuminated the path for product managers to navigate the turbulent seas of team building, retention, effective communication. So now we're going to be steering your product team and career towards further success. And today, you're going to meet Mariya Mladenova, Head of Product at Zalando SE, as she imparts invaluable insights of product management leadership, propelling your career and teams to new heights. And coming up in today's episode, she's going to be talking about secrets of hiring, motivating and incentivizing teams, employee retention tactics and tricks, and career development and growth in product leadership. Welcome, Mariya. I'm excited to discuss what makes a successful team and a successful product leader. But first, I'd like to hear your insights on maintaining high standards when hiring for different positions, especially about the complexity in this process and the key attributes you seek in candidates to make them stand out.
How to finding talent as the biggest challenge. And I think that's something you very quickly realize when you start leading people, even if it's a few people only. Because finding somebody that would be a good match culturally, but also would have the tenacity to really stick with the problem and work through it in a productive way, they would have the character to manage the stakeholders in the right way. They would also feel good in this environment, and you would give them some kind of even perhaps trajectory to grow into as a product manager. It's a really hard. It sounds like we're searching for a product manager for this, but actually behind that, these are all the expectations that you have to cover for yourself and your team, and also for this person as well. And in my experience, in the beginning, for me, it was really hard because I wasn't aware of all of those things. So as with everything, it really makes sense to find a mentor there. So I consulted with quite a few experienced leads in our organization. It helped me a lot that in our organization, you can really get a call, like a consulting call with almost everyone. So I had a few people leads in product that I really liked, and I talked to them a lot about how to do hiring better. And my challenge was not really how I set my standards, but how the company sets the standards. Because in a different setup, probably you're the only decision maker. In a company that is more scaled, you would have procedures and other committees and other decision makers that would need to say yes. And I had the issue that I would choose 2 or 3 people where I see really great potential, and I would be very sure that they would learn and they would grow into the role. Maybe they didn't have like the perfect matching resume beforehand, but the committee would then interview them and say no. And this, for the first person I was hiring, it took me almost 8 months until I got somebody through the committee, and they said, yes, this person really matches our expectations. So it was a very long learning process for me. I think it's harder to set expectations without this external level of set by somebody else, and you have to be mainly careful about your own, the way you're currently, your own feelings, and the way you're currently feeling the need for this position. Because I've seen quite a few leads participating in those processes that were really eager to hire somebody, for example, because they didn't have anyone on this role. It was really urgent, and they were ready to jump for anything. What I try to do is I look for maybe three main things. So first of all, I very much look for motivation. So for me, it's important to have somebody that likes solving problems, and their main motivation is not only career growth and salary, which of course all of our motivation is to some extent the remuneration that we receive and how we're going to grow. But you also need to be motivated by the problems you're going to solve and these successes that you would have with a team, hopefully. Otherwise, it's just, it won't be working. So that's the first thing I look for. Also connected to that, some some evidence that this person would like to stay with the problem for longer. I really believe that in product, at least in a large organization, it's hard to go in for 6 months and make an impact. Secondly, I definitely look for stakeholder management because of our environment. So the scaled environment that we work in requires dealing with sometimes up to 10 different stakeholders. Internally, some colleagues deal with external vendors as well. And there are some people that I've interviewed that have worked on products with a much smaller landscape. So it depends on the roles you're hiring for, but I think you have to be aware of the landscape also that you're dealing with. And then this is maybe part of, I don't know if it's like that for every company, but for me, the third thing that's important is really about more of a personal trait. So I like working with people that are more team-oriented, so less egocentric than maybe somebody else would be okay with, because especially in a scaled organization, I believe that it's hard to do a lot, again, in terms of impact, only as an individual contributor. It's great that you have the qualities of the individual contributor. You can really do the research, source the data, talk to everyone, make your pitch, but you have to also be able to do that while working with somebody else or while having 3 different dependencies, which is something that is not easy to find.
Wow, thanks for sharing your insights into the hiring process. Now I'm really curious to learn about your ideas regarding, let's say, non-monetary incentives that can promote team unity and enhance employee retention.
Yeah, I think I can talk a little bit about myself. I really never thought that I would stay at one company and at this job for more than 2-3 years. That's the normal also for most product managers. I see, if you're on the same level, you would switch every 2-3 years to a new company. Then you would have some new challenges. Maybe you have exhausted what you were doing before. I think what kept me though, and what keeps actually a lot of people in our team right now, I hope, is it's really kind of a buzzword to say the culture, but yes, the culture, which is the way of working and the practices and the way we address challenges. And I think this chance to have enough freedom so that you don't feel restricted, but also have enough support in terms of advice from colleagues around product methodologies and so on, so that you don't feel stuck. This kind of combination really, for people that love to solve problems and love to make an impact and are good team players, so the people that I was explaining where I'm trying to hire, is actually a good environment and they want to stay there. And we see usually, or my experience is that when people in product roles are looking for another challenge, as you say, they sometimes want to. So sometimes you would hear, I want to become a senior just because, I've been a product manager for 3 years. I feel that I'm being left behind. But this is not about, for me, that's not the core motivation. The core motivation is really about what you do day to day. And this is more a fear that you're kind of lagging behind everyone else. And the motivation to want this is maybe coming from that. And I think this is normal, and you should still, as a lead, I try to still think about, these progressions in the career of people so that they don't feel that they're stuck on the same level for a long time. And if they are, and if they really are not growing in their skill set, maybe there's something else or some other product that they can be tackling or something else that they can be learning. But the main motivation is really this kind of healthy environment and progress that you feel that you can make, because the environment gives you the freedom and gives you the tools. And it's not easy to achieve. I think it's not even up to one team. So in our team, what I'm trying to do, of course, is set up the process in a way that allows for that. So that's the best I can do. But to to a big extent, it's also about the company culture. So how much the job family of product is really given focus in the company culture is a big draw for a lot of product managers, and I've seen that as well. Not only for our team and company, but in general, if you have like internal product days, if you have product practices that are very clear, product experts that have worked in the industry for 10, 20 years or have created practice tailored to this specific business, and you can consult with them internally. People are really asking for that when they interview. And this becomes quite a big draw also for them afterwards to stay. I think even if they don't like their team and they want to switch the product, they will still stay with the company because it's a good place to grow as a product manager.
As we wrap up today, Mariya, could you share any final thoughts on effectively conveying the significance of product management to the broader organization as a whole?
Yes, that's I think always an uphill battle. It's really I mean, it's a weird position, but as product managers we have to basically sell our role to everyone else. And what I found to be working so far is really going heavy on the communication. I can give one example of a very early project that I was working on. It was with the process team. So the process team usually, or process teams in a company usually would try to improve efficiency, and they would see the software team, that if it's an internal software as we do, as just a provider that has to, change some buttons for them or change the software so it can support this process. And they don't see the product manager as somebody that understands the whole efficiency case or the whole enablement that needs to happen, but just somebody that needs to communicate that this button is now going in the software to the engineering team. And what we did there, which was, I think, quite annoying for the process team in the beginning, but they were happy with it in the end, is I just went through the whole thing with them again. They had an 80 slide proposal for what they want and how the process would change. We went through all the stakeholders. So from the beginning, what we can do because it involved also how we can change relationships with vendors. We went through what we can do with the vendors, what are the restrictions there, what is the next step of the process, how we can communicate then there was another team from a different department that wanted. So in the beginning of the process, at the end, it had some inputs, outputs that we were exchanging. Went through all of that together, just me and the process guy, and redid the whole thing. Actually, it turned out that the way they were imagining it was based on what they have seen in other companies before, but is not applicable to us because we cannot have the same vendor arrangements as other companies do. And I think this was a way to kind of sell, at least to this team, what we're doing beyond communicating at this button to the front end, but really on building the whole flow, building the business case, and supporting the business from this perspective as well. But it's this is one team, so it's really an uphill battle if you want to do it in this way. But I don't have a better way to do it. In organizations where you have a very strong product director, for example, they might have already established these connections and process, but they would have likely done the same.
You can stay connected with Mariya on LinkedIn, where she shares a lot of really valuable information. And if you found this episode valuable, you'll love our episode with John Kennedy on how best to motivate product teams. It's a must listen for creating teams that really, really excel. And I'd like to thank my friends over at Amplitude for partnering with me to bring this episode to you today. And from me, until next time, bye for now.